Recordings in progress. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about working with buyers as this market in some areas is changing a little bit. Now, in some areas, it hasn't affected, right? Obviously, for some of you, you're working in certain markets where you're telling me that nothing's changed. Others of you are telling me you're working in markets where it is taking a little bit longer, there are less offers, and so on and so forth. So, you know, as a whole, I'm sure everyone at some capacity at some point will see something slightly different than what's been going on for the last few years. So as that happens, we need to know how to adjust with our clientele so that we are the source of all that is good in real estate knowledge. So my first thing I want you to write down in terms of working, this is really working with buyers or sellers, but the first thing I want you to write down is this. Am I the source of all the good information in the world of real estate? Am I the source of all the good information that is in real estate? Now, is all the good information always necessarily good for the clients? Meaning that, is it always what they want to hear? Can one person just respond so I know I'm not talking to myself?
No, not all information is what they want.
Okay. Maybe I was like, man, maybe my computer's not working.
Yep.
Okay, great. No, not all information is what they want to hear. That's not necessarily part of the requirements of being the source of all that is good information in the world of real estate. But you need to be the person that's providing that information. Sometimes it's not good information for buyers. Sometimes it's not good information for sellers. The truth is, if you're always talking about how everything's so good for buyers and sellers, do people generally believe you all the time?
Nope.
No, they don't. At some point, they just go, yeah, I know. It's so great for me to sell because you want my listing. Yeah, I know. It's great for me to buy because you want my escrow. Like at some point, you have to, good information is just being honest. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I want to let you know that, you know, interest rates have gone up to 5 whatever percent. That means you might have lost $150,000 in buying power. Now, does that generally get buyers excited? But is that the truth?
Yes.
Yes. Which makes you far more valuable than the other agents that are just, oh no, it's great time, it's this, it's that. They will believe you more. So that's the first thing, is really important, especially when you're working with buyers in today's market. Okay, so let me ask you this. You're out there. Let me ask you a couple questions before I go through the rest of my stuff here. Are you noted? And I'm not trying to lead you anywhere. I really am just curious because I know every market's different. In your markets that you're working, are you seeing less offers on listings or the same offers that have been for the last couple months or in the last couple of years?
Less offer.
Less offers. Okay, got it. And would you say, I know it's not easy for buyers, and I don't know the answer to this question. If I wanted to buy a property today, is it easier or more likely? Let me put a better chance. Do I have a better chance of getting an offer accepted today than the past couple of years, or is it the same?
There's a better chance.
Better chance? Okay, great. And then my third question is, if I have a low down payment program like FHA or VA, do I have a better chance today, or is it about the same as it's been the last few years?
The better chance.
Better chance. Okay. Maricela says still think the same. Yeah, every market's different. That's why I wasn't trying to lead anybody anywhere. This was really just research. Okay, great. So here's the thing. We're working with buyers. Now, in the last couple years, if I wanted to buy a property, I essentially was being told that interest rates were at all-time lows, prices were skyrocketing, and I was going to have to go through 30 offers to get my offer accepted. I was going to have to go above list price, all these other different things, right? So let me ask you this. Would you say that the market has shifted to a buyer's market, or is it still a seller's market?
Still seller's market.
Yes. Yes. Now that one I did know the answer to. Okay. I just wanted to make sure everyone else was on the same page. So here's what it's important to know about working with buyers in this type of marketplace. Okay. This is really important to know. It is still a seller's market. And barring a global financial collapse like 2008, or the greatest and fastest home building turnaround in the history of mankind, in Southern California, it will continue to be predominantly favored toward sellers for the foreseeable future. I say that first, so you have to be able to explain to a buyer that this is not this, as you said earlier, there's less offers. You have a better chance than the last couple of years. In some markets, if you're FHA, VA, you have a better chance than you had the last couple of years. That does not make it a buyer's market. This is really important because what I read in the news, and I read online and I hear from some of you with your clients is that, well, things have softened and it's converting more to a buyer's market. No. There's a difference between a buyer's market and it's becoming easier for buyers. Does that make sense to everybody? No. Okay, good. So let's go back because this is really important. When a buyer thinks it's a buyer's market, what is generally the mindset of a buyer if they think it's a buyer's market and they want to go write up an offer on property? And they think it's a buyer's market. What's going to be their mentality?
They want closing costs and they want to go below the market price.
They want to go below market price. They want closing costs. Hey, it's a buyer's market. I'm in charge. Now, in today's market, can a buyer do that and get their offer accepted most of the time? No. Okay. So that's what I mean. It's not a buyer's market, but we're hearing this. We're seeing this. Oh, this could be shifting to a buyer's market. Okay. People throw this buyer market term out there, and it's really, really important that you can explain to your buyers that we are not in a buyer's market. We are in a softening market. We're in a shifting market, whatever verbiage you want to use. But when they read it's a buyer's market, as Eddie said, they start thinking, well, yeah, Robert, but this property is listed for $750. I want to go in at $725 and see if I can get them to pay some closing cost. Now, for those of you that have listings, a buyer comes to you and says they want to go 10% below market value and they want the seller to pay closing costs. Are you taking that buyer seriously?
Don't even think about it.
Don't even think about it. That's my point. That's my point. Because yes, it's easier right now than it has been the last couple of years, but we have to make sure that they know the difference between a buyer's market and a changing market, a softening market. That's the point. Because if we can't explain that to them, and they're in their heads are still, well, I read it's a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market. It's shifted to a buyer's market. We're never going to get them to move forward the way that they want. Okay. It's very, very important that you can explain that to them. If you need help with that, again, I'm here to help you with that. But that's really, really important. Okay. Because I see this all the time, those types of things. Now, interest rates have obviously gone up. So here's the question. Do you ever hear buyers say, well, since interest rates have gone up, that means prices must come down? Have you heard buyers say that? Okay, great. So is that necessarily accurate that if interest rates go up, prices go down?
No.
Well, they will. It's just we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
I mean, they have gone down statistically, but not like 5%. It's like 1 or 2%.
Right. So in some marketplaces and some price points, and things might have changed, but the general MLS prices are still going up. They're just not going up the same percentage wise that they were the last couple of years. So, but here's the question. At the beginning of the pandemic, say March 2020, April 2020, how low did interest rates get to? Give me some figures.
Oh, hold on 1 sec.
I don't need the exact number.
0.25?
I think it's below 3.
2.25 to, yeah, so in there. Okay. March, April 2020, rates were at 2.25. So what are they at roughly today?
5.3,
5.35.
5.5.
5.3, 5.5. Okay, so that means rates have gone up in the last 2 years, 3%. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay. What have prices been doing the last 2 years?
Why not?
Okay. Like at a low going up, or they've been going up pretty good?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. So in the last 2 years, we've had a 3% increase in the interest rates and probably a 20% increase in prices.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. They've gone up. They've gone up 50%.
Prices.
Excuse me. Yeah, they're even higher than that.
Okay, but whatever it may be. I'm just
like
being conservative.
100%.
Sure.
They've gone up 100%.
Okay, great. So the point is, when you're running into buyers that are saying, well, look, I want to wait because as interest rates go up, prices will go down. The example I'm giving here is, I don't have to look very far to know that that's not accurate. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, in the last 2 years, interest rates have gone up 3% and prices have gone up whatever number. So clearly rising interest rates does not necessarily determine lower prices. Okay. So, and then we could go through that in all kinds of history. Yes, there have been times where maybe they have softened a little bit, but it doesn't guarantee that they're going to go down. So make sure you're able to explain that to them. Or if it's an analytical or even anybody that needs you to show it to them, show them. Go to InfoSparks and show them a graph of saying the average price per square foot or the average price in your neighborhood. And what are they going to see? They're going to see a graph that pretty much goes like this over since 2008, last 14 years. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, interest rates have certainly gone up and down. How many times since 2008 have interest rates gone up and down a little bit? 5, 6 different times. And yet the trend still continues to go upwards. So it's very important that you can understand, that the buyers understand that. Here's what's also really important in terms of working with the buyers, right? With this interest rate thing. We're going to get to a number of different things, but I want to start here with the rates because I feel like this is probably the most popular thing. As rates go up, what do buyers lose?
Buying power.
Buying power. Buying power. Now, most buyers in the marketplace, do they generally think homes are priced correctly or overpriced?
Overpriced.
Yeah, I think most buyers, they look at an $800,000 house, and I bet most buyers go, gosh, 800,000, this is all I'm getting? All right, people, can you relate to that? No. Okay. We'll move on to a different topic.
You're on to something, Robert. Keep going.
Yeah, I know I am. I'm just trying to see if everyone else is paying attention.
Well, got food in our mouth.
We're on. Yes.
I'm well aware, but maybe I'm just not explaining it correctly. Okay. So most buyers think that an $800,000 house, and they go, gosh, I can't believe this is all I'm getting for 800,000. Because in some of your cities, 800,000 is like just slightly above a treehouse, right? Some of your areas, 800,000 might be a decent house, right? So, but here's the thing. That means if this is all they're getting at 800,000 and they're somewhat disappointed, that means they would really be disappointed in 700,000. Would you agree? Okay.
Yep.
So if the interest rate continues to go up and they lose buying power, that means they don't qualify for 800,000 anymore, and they have to go to 700,000 or whatever the price, whatever their new price point is. The point that you have to make here of understanding with the buyers is that this is what you get for 800,000. Let me go show you homes at 700,000. Well, why would you do that? Because if you don't act now, this is what you're going to have to purchase. Is a home that's 700,000 today. At best, because that would be assuming the prices stay flat. And 6 months from now, if the interest rate is up 1 more percentage point, which a lot of lenders seem to think it is, if the price is up to if the rate goes up 1 more percent, now you're down to $700,000. So let's go look at $700,000 homes and let's see how you like those. Because if you like them, we might as well buy it now for 700 grand. Now, generally speaking, are they going to like that $700,000 house compared to the $800,000 house? No. So now there's a different mentality going to that $800,000 offer. But I'm not, this is, you could say it's a scare tactic, but I'm just being honest. They've lost buying power. Buyers that have waited have lost buying power. And if they continue to wait, they continue to lose more buying power. So now that $700,000 house is what they're going to end up buying. Now, what if I really want to make a scary proposition, what if in the next 6 months, prices go up 5%? Is it unreasonable to think that prices could go up 5% in the next 6 months? In most markets, what do you think? Am I being unreasonable?
No.
Okay. So now let's assume that you lose the buying power. So you're at 700,000, but prices went up 5%. So technically that $700,000 house is going to be selling for what? 735 if it goes up 5%, right? So now, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you lost you're at 800,000 today. 6 months from now, you lose the buying power, so you're at 700,000. But guess what? That's what's going to be worth 700,000 in 6 months is worth 675 today. So really, if you want to wait, let's go look at the 675 homes. How much are they going to like that house? Hell, in some cases, you won't be in a house anymore, will you? Be in a condo, townhouse. So really, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, by waiting, the risk you take is that you could buy this $800,000 house today, but by waiting, you might end up with a house that's worth $675, paying the exact same mortgage payment. Is this making sense? Be honest. If it's not making sense, then I will find a different way to explain it. This is important.
So Robert, let me unpack that really quick, all right?
Yeah.
Doing some calculations. I think you and I are using the same numbers. Your original calculation was at 750.
Well, original home today, let's say they qualify for 800.
Okay. All right. Think about this, gang. All right. And this is something that I'm working with my buyer's agent with. And we really have to bring this home, because if you can't sell this, you're going to have a hard time getting any buyer to want to buy in this type of market. The reality is this: at 750, if you bought a home today at 750, and let's use a 5.35% interest rate, it's actually going to be a cheaper payment buying today at a higher price. And let's assume the property dropped 50 grand. If you drop the price, you have to wait for the property to drop 50. Like, say somebody's going to say you're dropping, it's going to drop 50 grand. Okay, but by the time it drops 50 grand, the interest rate is going to be up another point. And if you talk to any lender, they're all predicting to be over 6%. But the reality is this: you can buy a home today at 5.35, or wait for the properties to drop, if they do, and pay a higher interest rate. And it's actually costing you more money to wait by paying a higher interest rate than buying at a higher price today at a lower interest rate. You, in essence, have to wait to break even on this whole scenario, on this playing field, You got to wait for the property to drop $75,000 to have a same payment today versus the payment you could have tomorrow at a lower price if it goes down, but at a higher interest rate. And so I know those numbers get confusing, but we have to find a way to articulate that so that the buyer understands why it's better to buy now, and the seller for that matter. Hey, let's get you more money today. And then the buyer, let's get you the property today at a better interest rate. Enough said. That was my point. And I think that's what you're trying to drive home, right, Robert?
Yes. Yes, 100%. 100%. That's it. That's it. But you have to be able, and I know some of you are looking at me going, God, Robert, no one told me math was going to be involved. And I get it. I know. I'm sorry. We're calculating numbers here and we're crunching numbers. But what Miguel just said is 100% right. That's the point we have to get across to them. Okay. Is there's the potential risk of waiting is the rising interest rate. And like he said, most lenders would agree that interest rates are going to keep going up by the end of the year. That's every lender I talk to seems to say the same thing. Now, I will preface that by saying anyone that knows exactly what's going to happen to interest rates is a liar. Okay. Okay. But enough people are at least convinced that they're going to continue to go up to 6s, potentially even at 7 by the end of the year. That's another at least full percentage point. So they lose either the buying power, or if they don't lose the buying power because maybe their debt to income ratios is not that bad, it's the added monthly payment, the added interest. Okay. So very, very important. Now I want to hit on the next, exactly what Miguel said. So let me explain this to you on something he said as well. Let's say you have an $800,000 house. Okay. Or right. Or an $800,000 loan.
Loan or purchase price?
Let's go with an $800,000 purchase price.
Okay.
And they're putting 20% down.
640.
640. So $640,000 today. And let's say the rate is at 5.25. The payment is roughly $3,500. $3,500 for an $800,000 house, 20% down. Now, let's say that the rate goes up to 6.25, goes up 1%. That's almost $4,000. So we're roughly about $500. $500 a month.
Exactly 500.
Okay, $500 a month. Increase in the payment. So let's assume they can still afford it. Now, $500 a month is $6,000 a year. So let's say that $800,000 home goes down 5%. So 5% of 800,000 means the price drops 40 grand. So I'm a buyer and I say, well, the price is going to drop. And okay, so let's say the price drops 5%. I mean, they've been going now. Here's what's really important. They've been going up. Let's just say, let's be conservative because some of your markets are different. But let's say they've been going up 20%. To drop 5%, that's a 25% drop, really. Because if they're going up at 20, and now all of a sudden you think they're going to drop 5, that means they have to, it's like a 25% turnaround. So it drops 5%, which means that now it drops 40 grand. But because you waited, the interest rate went up and you're actually paying $6,000 more a year. Now, how long do people typically stay in their homes in your marketplace? What are some averages?
5 or 8, but I think that's
8
gone
years.
to teens now.
Yeah. In some cases, LA County for single family residence is 18. Orange County is at 19. Okay. I don't know, Riverside, San Bernardino, some of those areas might be different. But let's say it's 10 years. So $6,000 a year times 10 is $60,000. So even if they were right and the price dropped 5% and they saved $40,000, it would cost them $60,000 in added interest over the next 10 years.
Robert, it might cost them more.
It might.
Aren't,
But I'm just trying to keep it simple.
right, but isn't the interest rate packed in the first 10 years, the first
Yeah.
15 years?
Yes,
100%.
yes.
Right. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're right. You're right. You're right. So really over a 10-year, here's what's really important. We have to start talking to people in business terms. A lot of buyers right now, and sellers do this too, are thinking short term. I read this, I heard this, that's the truth. We have to start treating people like business people. Okay. So, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, let me ask you this. If I were to give you $40,000 today, but you had to pay me $60,000 over the next 10 years, would you think that's a good deal? What are most people going to say?
Yes. Or no?
I give you 40, you give me 60. Most people are going to say no, right? Would you agree?
Yep.
Right.
Well, that's essentially what you're doing, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. That's essentially what you're doing. If you're right, and the price goes down 5%, congratulations, you saved $40,000. You're going to get 40 grand up front in savings. But because the interest rate went up, it's going to cost you $60,000 over the next 10 years. And gosh, if you stay for 15 or 16 years, now we're talking 100 grand. Now that doesn't seem like a very smart business decision, does it? Well, no, it doesn't. See, now I've turned the conversation from I'm a real estate agent and I'm trying to get you a deal to a business conversation. And that's how we have to treat some of these people when we're looking at the long-term perspective of things. Because if we only look at the short-term perspective on things, what do they see us as?
Salespeople.
Salespeople. I'm going to
Robert,
get you the house today, get my check, boom, see you later, have a nice life.
Here's what's interesting, Robert, in what you're sharing right now. The difference between 5.25 and 6.25 or 5.35, 6.35, whatever it is, it's actually costing somebody on the life of the loan $146,000 during the life of that loan. $146,000.
146 grand simply for the hope that prices go down. For the hope. Now, that's your best case scenario, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Worst case scenario, you're wrong. And prices continue to go up.
You know, there's one more thing here.
Oh, man. Hold on one second, Dave. Now
Sure.
you've got the added interest and you had to pay an additional $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, maybe even more to get the property. Does it, and before I get to Dave, is this making, be honest, is this making sense? This is a business conversation. This is not a real estate conversation. This is the same conversation you would have with someone who is going to invest in a business, who is going to invest in stocks, who is going to invest in something. This is a business conversation. And if you want to get buyers who are hesitant right now to pull the trigger and move forward, it has to be a business conversation, not just a real estate conversation. This is really, really important. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the other thing too that you can talk to them about is the concept that once you lock in the price now with a property, you know exactly what the price is and what the mortgage amount is going to be.
Points.
With interest rates over the next, and that'll never change over the next 10 years. That, you know, everything's based on that. But the upside is that if you buy now, the likelihood over the next 10 years that the interest rate will be lower than it is now and you can refi is pretty darn high.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't work the other way around.
That's true. It's a great point.
They could
Great
always
point.
go down.
Yeah.
And they're volatile.
Yeah, that's true. It's a great point. If they go up, you're safe. If they
Okay,
go down,
Robert.
you can refi.
I
Yeah.
have a quick question for you.
Yes, Tess.
Okay, so I'm doing the numbers. If that person buys this house right now for 800,000 with a 20% down,
Mm-hmm.
okay, with a PI, with taxes and everything, it's 4450. Okay, 4450. But let's just look at I mean, in reference to property taxes, that's a different conversation. It's 35.34 for a 5.25% interest rate.
Mhm.
If you go on a 6.25%, okay, the payment is 35.46. There's really very little difference. And I've already calculated that based on a 10% drop in price, which is 720. Really, they're not really saving money, even if they, I mean, they're saving money even if they buy on a 6.25% to like 5.25%. The best part about this is that if you are selling your home right now, you're getting more money. But then if you wait, the prices of the home will drop. Let's just say 10%. But then
Mhm.
if they buy the next home, that means they're still going to be saving a lot more money. I'll calculate it. Really what it is it's not really worth waiting is what I'm trying to say, bottom line.
I agree. I agree. So so a couple things here, and then I want to get to the, and Tess actually brought up something I want to talk about next. Here's what we have to have a conversation with as well. Do most people like to gamble realistically?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would actually disagree with
Most people gamble, but they don't like to gamble.
that. Okay.
I think it's deceiving
Here's why I
question.
bring it up.
I
Here's what I
agree
bring.
with you,
Here's why.
Robert. They
Here's
don't
why I
want to
bring it up.
gamble.
By waiting to buy is really a gamble right now. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Because you're waiting, assuming that prices are going to drop at a significant price compared to the interest rates going up.
Mhm.
So here's a question you could ask the buyer. Let me ask you something, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. You like to gamble? You a gambler, you a high roller going to Vegas, gambling on the sports games, stuff like that. And some of them are going to say, hell yeah. Okay, well then maybe you are the type of person that should wait. But here's what I feel like you're going to get most of the time. Well, you're going to get that, the hesitation. Okay, great. So you're not really a high roller, putting a lot of money on the line. No, that's not really my thing. I'm more conservative. Okay, great. Then I got to tell you, you're really playing a high risk gamble by doing what you're doing. And it sounds like that's not something you like to do. Can I explain? Oh yeah, explain. And then you explain this to them. Again, business conversation. I'm not talking about real estate. You don't like to gamble. Let me tell you about this business conversation of a rising interest rates, on what it could do to your buying power, what it could do to your monthly payment, and you're banking that even though you're going to lose buying power and lose your mortgage payment, that the prices are going to go down to try to offset that. That's your only hope. Now, if you're right, great. But if you're wrong, now you're double screwed, because now you're going to have a higher mortgage payment and the prices are going to be worth more. And you've already lost the added equity you would have got if you got the house now. So you could always ask that conversation of, do you like to gamble? And I bet most people are not going to be big gamblers. Okay. So you could have that too. The next thing I want to bring up though is Tess had mentioned if they were selling and then trying to buy the next house. So this is important for the people that want to wait. The whole focus today is the people that want to wait, what's going on in the marketplace, Okay. I want to sell this house, but I want to wait because I want to wait for the replacement property to go down. Okay. Because they're moving up. So let me ask you this. If assuming that they're selling their house and they're selling and buying in the same general vicinity, if the price of the replacement property goes down, is it fair to say that their price is going to go down?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do most sellers necessarily think that far ahead?
No.
Robert, I want to wait because the replacement property is too expensive. I want to wait for the prices to go down. Okay, that makes sense. However, have you considered XXX next? Now, typically, where is the down payment coming from that's going to go to the replacement property?
They sell their home
The sale of their home. Exactly. Thank you, Ray. So
typically.
if the prices go down, what do they lose?
They lose down payment.
Their
They
equity.
lose their down payment.
Yep.
So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller and buyer, you can sell this house and you have this massive amount of equity. You are going to take this equity and go purchase this bigger home for you and your family and whatever. Yes, correct. But I want to wait until this home up here, I want to wait till it goes down in price. Okay, great. But that means yours will go down in price.
Yeah.
So now you have this massive amount of equity. And if your home goes down in price, you no longer have that equity, which means that you probably don't have the equity to go purchase the next bigger house. So now you're stuck. Now you can't buy the bigger house. Now you're here. Let me ask you, why did you want to get a bigger house to begin with?
Motivation.
Well, I've got twin boys. We're in a
Space.
two-bedroom house. It was a starter home. The boys are 12 years old and they're already 6'2", 220. They need their own room. Okay, great. So if you wait and you lose that down payment money and you can't go purchase it and the real estate goes in cycles, how long could it possibly be before we get back up to the prices we are today? 5, 6 years? If that actually happens, if prices go down, could it take 5 or 6 years for it to come back up?
Yes.
Is that possible?
Mhm.
Okay, great. So that means Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're going to be stuck in this 2-bedroom house for another 5 or 6 years. Are you prepared to do that? No. Okay. So why don't you take the money you have? Let's go buy the bigger house now. Now, but here's a really important. Here's the next step that's really, really important. The next house you buy, it's a bigger house. Is that a house that you plan on being in for a long time?
Yes, brother.
And they say yes. Then what does it matter if you buy it and then prices go down a little? Because then they will just come back up and you're not selling anytime soon. But at least you're in the house you want to be in. Don't be stuck in 5 or 6 years in the smaller house you don't want to be in. Be stuck for 5 or 6 years in the bigger house you want to be in. Does that make sense? Okay, if they are selling and buying and they think prices are going to go down, they're losing their down payment because their home's going to go down too. They're stuck. They're stuck.
I think, Robert, what they're trying to say is, especially for people that have earned equity in their home, like double their equity, they're comparing it based also on the property taxes that they're going to be paying for the
Sure.
next home.
Sure.
So they're thinking, well, yes, my pricing will, if I sell now, the next home I'm buying is going to be bigger. Obviously, the property taxes is bigger.
Sure.
That's what
But
they're
But
saying.
if it, okay, and so Tess, you're 100% right. Here's the thing. If you're concerned about the property taxes, is it fair to say that you're not really that motivated to get a bigger house to begin with?
Well, the argument that I say with that is, look, I mean, I get what you're saying, but remember, your property taxes and your interest is a write-off for you. Would
Sure.
you agree that at the end of the day, you basically really will get back whatever money that you're losing because you're paying more money? I agree. But you're also using that as a write-off for you of the taxes you're paying.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. But what I would say to everyone, and Tess is right, we run into this, well, the property taxes. Folks, if they're concerned about the property taxes, they're not motivated to buy.
And Robert, how many people really, how many times are you having that conversation? I would say.
Well, we have it. I do hear it, that there are buyers that are concerned because they've been in this house for 10 years or more. So I'm paying, my house is worth 800,000, but I'm only paying property taxes if it's 500,000.
Mm.
Now I'm going to buy a house that's $1 million. So I'm paying property taxes on $1 million instead of 500,000. We get that.
Yeah.
But my point is, that means they're not that motivated to buy, because if you really needed to buy or wanted to buy $1 million house because your family's getting bigger or you want to move closer to a really nice area or a nicer school district, they're not going to be concerned about the property taxes. If you're really motivated to buy, that's not going to happen. But to Tessa's point, because we do run into it, well, you know, I'm concerned about the property taxes. I would just say right away, okay, so how motivated are you to even buy a house? I mean, we're talking about $1 million purchase and you're talking to me about property taxes. Like, it's so small compared to the amount of money that's going to the house. You're putting in $250,000 into a house. You're gonna have a $4,000 or $5,000 mortgage payment. You're gonna have all this. If the property taxes are the thing that's on your mind, this isn't for you. Yes, Rosalinda.
Oh, is that where that rule comes in, where they can take their what is it, their tax bracket or their?
Yeah. I mean, there are the
for
different
seniors.
rules that they can do that, and so
Okay.
yeah, that's another conversation piece.
If they're in a certain age, right?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
only for seniors.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. But going back to that point, very important that if they're thinking prices are going to go down, but they're selling and then buying, this is, again, we have to have the business conversation, because short-term mindset is, I'm going to wait till that price goes down. They're not thinking about the whole picture. They're not thinking about the whole money aspect of things. And if
Another
we
thing
can't get them to think big, to think about the whole picture of owning a house, and they are only focused on the one thing, we're totally dead in the water. We're not going to get them to pay a higher price at a higher interest rate if we can't articulate to them the bigger picture of things.
That's also the saying that when we're talking to first-time buyer, right? Because a first-time buyer, if they're renting for like 1,800, let's say, or 2,000, and their payment now is like $3,000, almost double. I mean, I would imagine that first-time buyer, if they're really what you say, they're motivated, no matter what, they will do it, because
Yes.
yeah, because they have to, because they really need to get a house. So
Yeah.
that's what you call the total motivation.
Sure.
Remember the time when we worked with first-time buyer and their payment was lower, and then they say, okay, your payment now is going to be $3,000 as opposed to 1,800. The question is, can you afford it? So now they go back to, again, what? Qualifying. You know, you adjust your standard of living, you know, instead of buying coffee every day, 3 times a day, a Starbucks, then they now go with one coffee.
Yeah.
Kidding, you know?
Yeah. I'm only having one now.
That's actually true, because I have a buyer that pays 2,000 for rent, but they were like, I'd rather pay 3,000, but something that I will own. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's where the motivation comes in.
That is the motivation.
Well, and then, but here's to that point for Eddie that Tess are making, is it's really important that we test the motivation, because there are people that live in downtown LA across from the Staples Center in that high-rise apartment complex paying $7,000 a month, and they're not moving because they'd rather pay $7,000 and have the lifestyle instead of trying to buy a house in, you know, Huntington Park.
Mhm.
Robert,
So very
excluding
important. Very
HOAs.
important. You check the motivation. Yes, Ray.
No, I mean, that's a good point. And then, you know, not to mention the HOAs that they pay. They gladly pay those fees because they want to be there.
They want to be. They
That's
want
a
the
lot of
lifestyle.
motivation. Yeah,
So it's
I
very
understand.
important. Yeah, very important, because you might have someone like Tess and Eddie are talking about. They're like, man, I'm paying $2,000 a month. I'll pay the 3,000 through 3,500. I want to own a home. And
Yeah.
if that means that it's a starter home, it's 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, if that means it's a condo, I'll do it. Look at all of us probably at some point were in that situation. Most of us were, hey, our first home is not going to be the one by the beach. Okay, we're going to have to buy a condo, a townhouse, a small house. Okay, but we're homeowners, and you move up from there. But there, you just check the motivation. The last thing that I want to bring up here, and I know we're past due here, but just a couple more, just last couple things here, in regards to all of this stuff as well with the buyers and all these other different things. So it's vitally important as well that you can articulate what would it really take for prices to have a significant drop. Okay. And I'll get into this in a second, but you'll notice this entire time I've been saying you have to be able to articulate that. You have to be able to articulate that. You have to be able to articulate. You have to show it, if nothing else. Here's why. Everything you say, can I go online and find something that says the exact opposite? Yeah. Yes, I can do that. If I went to any real estate site right now, or any place that a bunch of real estate articles, I guarantee you I can find one that says market's hot, prices are skyrocketing, and then I could scroll and find an article that says market's slowing down. I can find it. I could find it. And one of them might be from the New York Times, and another one might be from Bob's blog from Louisville, Kentucky. I have no idea, right? From his parents' basement. But the point is I could find it online. So, and do people generally believe articles that match what they think, or believe articles that counteract what they think?
Let's say what they think.
What they think.
What they think. That they think. So if I think that prices are going to go down, and I find an article, even if it is from Bob's blog in Louisville, Kentucky, from his parents' basement, that supports my theory, I will generally see. So if you come across and you're trying to change their mind, or maybe not change their mind is a bad word, but just show them the correct information, if you cannot articulate it or show it in a very convincing fashion, they're never going to believe you, because you're battling two people. You're battling what they think, and you're battling the person they found online that agreed with them. So now it's 2 against 1. And so if you can't articulate this kind of stuff, and you just say, well, no, it's a good time to buy now because rates are going up, but you can't explain why, you're never going to get them.
Robert, this is a good segue to a question that I have for you. All this information is great, even the numbers that we ran and all the great points. Hopefully people took notes, because on the other side of that conversation, there's a conversation to be had with the seller. And so I'm sure that's another 12:15, 1 o'clock meeting. But here's my point. Do you plan on putting a script together that your office can use, or that we could all use? Do you need help with that? Because I think if we can communicate this in a very short, sweet, short way home type of delivery, it's going to be a lot more impactful than to try to explain all the nicks and crannies of what we just talked about. What are your thoughts?
Sure. I'm more than happy to write that out.
All right.
More than happy to write that out.
I
Yeah,
think
no.
we already have that, Robert.
Yeah, I mean, we have a variation of a lot of different things, but I can fine tune it for sure. Yeah, that's not a problem. Okay, my last note here in regards to all this stuff. If you do what we just talked about and you articulate it perfectly, and the buyer says, no, you know what, I still think I want to wait, let them go. Okay? Let them go. Some people, as I've said 1 million times before, waiters will wait forever. And if a buyer tells me that they're thinking about waiting because of whatever, and I articulate the way that I just articulated for the last 45 minutes, and at the end of all that, they say, nah, do not go any further. Do not say, you know what, maybe I didn't explain this well. No. Just say, okay, great. And move on. If you absolutely want to, because some of you I know are going to have a hard time with that. If you absolutely want to, here's what you do. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you're going to wait. Despite everything I said, you still think prices are going to go down and you want to wait. Yes. Okay. Let me ask you a question. If over the next 3 months, I call you, and I call you every month for the next 3 months, to show you what prices have done in your marketplace, if they've gone up or down. If at the end of those 3 months, prices have gone up every month for the next 3 months, would you reconsider? And if they say, no, I think it's going to take longer than that. Okay, let them go. If they say, well, you know what, if in 3 months prices are still going up, then yeah, I would reconsider. Then if you want to, call them every month. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, it's Robert, Century 21 Masters, just giving you a monthly call. Last month, the average price point in your area was $552 a square foot. This month it's at $556. So it's still gone up a little bit. Any questions? Nope. Great. Do you know anyone that might be looking to buy or sell? Because we always ask for a referral. They say no. Okay, great. Hang up the phone. Month 2 comes along. Hey, it was at 552, then it was at 556. Now it's at 560. Okay. And then you just do that every month. But be honest, if it does go down, then just say, hey, I don't know. Guess what? It went from 556 to 550. Maybe you're onto something.
And they'll say, oh, I'll wait till they drop.
Good, good. Well, then, but maybe they'll be right, Eddie. And maybe they'll be in that marketplace where it's like, holy crap, this is one of those markets where it is going down. And if it happens, I will gladly say I was wrong. I was wrong once before. About an hour ago. Okay. But, let them go. Go find more people. Despite what's going on in the marketplace, if you really want to, you can find buyers. You can find people. Questions on anything we went over today? Oh, okay, good.
Powerful.
Good. All right, very good. Well, hopefully there was 1 or 2 things in there that were helpful for you. All right, everybody, that's all I got.